The reasons why Chinese firm is seizing Nigerian government asset. The recent event involving President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria, a presidential plane, and a Chinese company called Zhongshan Fuching Industrial Investment Company Limited has brought to light a complex legal and diplomatic issue that has deep roots. This issue has been brought to light as a result of the recent incident. As a result of this disagreement, a scenario that has deep roots has been brought to light because of the conflict, which has deep roots and has been brought to light. This situation has been brought to light as a result of the conflict. The uncommon incident that has gathered a great deal of interest, not just in Nigeria, but also in other parts of the world, is at the core of the disagreement that has arisen between the two parties. The fact that assets that belong to Nigeria were removed from the country of Nigeria and placed in France is at the heart of the disagreement that has brought about this situation. In the year 2007, Zhongshan Fuching and the administration of Ogun State in Nigeria came to an ambitious agreement with the goal of constructing a free trade zone. This agreement was reached with the objective of establishing a free trade zone. There has been a conflict that has been going on ever since this deal was reached, and it has continued without interruption. This clash served as the starting point for the battle. It had been hoped that this project would promote economic activity in the surrounding area by attracting foreign investment and promoting industrialization. This was to be accomplished through the development of industrialization. In order to fulfill this goal, it was anticipated that the advent of industrialization would be the mechanism by which it would be feasible. But on the other side, the initiative was greeted with a number of serious challenges, which ultimately resulted in its discontinuation in the year 2015. It was stated that the primary reason for the cancellation of the project by the authorities in Nigeria was due to the fact that the Chinese company did not meet its contractual commitments. This was the reason that was given. On the other side, Zhongshan Fuching opposed this termination by noting that it had made great progress in the project and had invested a significant amount of money into it. Zhongshan Fuching, on the other hand, argued that this termination was unfair. This was the argument that Zhongshan Fuching presented, which was that it had accomplished a lot with the project. As a consequence of the fact that the company was of the opinion that the termination was not appropriate, they arrived at the decision that they ought to initiate legal action in order to receive compensation for the damage that they had suffered. This legal battle has been going on for a protracted period of time as a consequence of a variety of various arbitration and court sessions. When Zhongshan Fuching was finally successful in obtaining a verdict that was beneficial to them, the length of this legal struggle increased as a consequence of this victory. A decision that was given down by an arbitration tribunal in London resulted in the Chinese firm being awarded a compensation amount that was larger than $60 million. This was the result of the ruling. Several new legal techniques were allowed to be adopted as a result of this ruling, which brought about the aforementioned consequences. Zhongshan Fuching made an effort to uphold the arbitration ruling by filing a request to the French legal system and collecting the required court orders. This was done in an effort to keep the arbitration decision in place. The corporation was able to take ownership of assets that were located in Nigeria as a kind of reparation for the alleged breach of contract. This was made possible by the court rulings. This action was taken in an effort to ensure that the arbitration contract was maintained in accordance with the terms that were stipulated in the instrument. The situation took a dramatic turn at the beginning of this year, when these court orders led to the seizure of 3 aircraft belonging to Nigeria while they were within the territory of France. The aircraft were traveling through France. A search warrant was executed on the aeroplane when they were in France. The aircraft, which included the recently acquired Airbus A330s, with a value of more than $100 million, as well as older types such as the Dassault Falcon 7X and a Boeing 737, were being treated to routine maintenance at the time that they were brought into custody. The aircraft were worth more than $100 million. There were a number of aeroplanes that were taken into custody, including the in-question aircraft. Concerns were made within the Nigerian government as a consequence of the detention of these aircraft. In particular, the Airbus A330, which was brought to the notice of a varied collection of individuals. It is claimed that Zhongshan Fuching eventually relinquished one of the Airbus A330s as a gesture of goodwill, despite the fact that Zhongshan Fuching and Airbus A330 had a history of antagonism toward one another from the beginning of their relationship. However, Nigerian officials have not publicly verified whether President Tinubu traveled on the A330 that was released, despite the fact that it is reported that this act of release made it simpler for President Tinubu to go to France in recent times. One method that might be fairly defined as one of unequivocal disapproval is the manner in which the Nigerian government has responded to the seizure. This approach has been taken in order to obtain court orders in the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and France. Zhongshan Fuqing has been accused by officials from Nigeria of using practices that are not only unusual but also possibly misleading. These techniques were allegedly utilized in order to obtain court orders. It was with the purpose of obtaining court orders in these countries that this assertion was made publicly known to the public. They believe that the matter is mostly between the government of Ogun State and the Chinese corporation, and that the assets of the federal government, particularly those that are protected by sovereign immunity, should not be exposed to seizure by courts headquartered in other countries. They are particularly of the opinion that the assets that are shielded by sovereign immunity ought to be safeguarded through protection. In particular, those assets that are protected from legal responsibility due to the sovereign immunity that they have. As a response to the crimes that have been committed, the government of Nigeria is currently going through the process of conducting investigations through both legal and diplomatic channels in an effort to collect its assets. The assertions that were made by the nation indicate that the actions that were carried out by the Chinese firm were not only unreasonable but also detrimental to the sovereign rights of Nigeria. Zhongshan Fuqing, on the other hand, has offered an explanation for its actions by stating that it had achieved great progress in the process of constructing the Ogun Free Trade Zone, and that the project was of significant relevance on a worldwide scale. This constitutes an explanation for the activities that Zhongshan Fuqing took. For the purpose of providing a justification for the actions that it has taken, this explanation was provided. Zhongshan Fuqing has also declared that it has made substantial breakthroughs in its operations, which indicates that it has made progress. The company has sent out a signal indicating that it is willing to reach a reasonable settlement with Nigeria in order to demonstrate its dedication to settling the dispute in a timely and peaceful manner. This signal was sent out in order to demonstrate that the corporation is committed to resolving the disagreement, to emphasize the company's desire to find a solution to the problem. This action is being taken with the purpose of bringing attention to the situation. In particular, this particular example exemplifies the intricacies and possible challenges that are associated with agreements involving foreign investment, particularly in regions that are still in the process of constructing economic and social infrastructure. The fact that this is an extraordinary and harsh measure is something that should be brought to your attention, because it exemplifies the serious nature of the legal and diplomatic concerns that may arise as a result of conflicts of this kind. An example of this would be the seizure of assets belonging to a sovereign nation by a court located in another country. There is a possibility that this case will establish a significant precedent for the way in which similar types of challenges will be handled in the future. This is absolutely something that ought to be taken into consideration. It is possible that the precedent that has been set will have an impact not only on international law, but also on the safeguarding of investments made by sovereign nations. In spite of the fact that Nigeria is currently working its way through this difficult challenge, the decision of this case has the potential to establish a precedent that it is of the utmost significance. Should this case be successful, it is possible that this precedent will be established. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.